Welcome to the second episode of Torn Underground with myself, Ara, and the Felon. We are super excited to have you guys here for episode 2. I mean, we were just so blown away by the welcome from you guys. It was incredible, and I know for myself, I'm coming at you with a much more confidence. I mean, I was so scared of just getting ridiculed on the forums for pages, and that was just the complete opposite. And now look at this intro we have that the Felon made, all royalty free, so we won't get sued. I mean, what a good job by him. How you doing today, the Felon?
I mean, oh man, I'm doing incredible. I feel like every day I learn something new about computers. Between the Discord and the intro and throwing stuff together. I mean, Ara said it the best. Like the welcome you guys gave us. And we were worried about being ridiculed on the forums, but I mean, I'm staring at a forum with 8 pages of good comments and over 300 likes. I mean, honestly, deep down, we are grateful to be here and we are super motivated. So I'm super excited.
Yeah, it's only going to go up from here. I've already tested the audio levels, so it should be good. And I'm going to throw a damn tantrum if it comes out and it's trash, but we tested it and it came out good, so I'm feeling pumped for that.
Yeah. It's a work in progress, but I know one of the most of the comments are about the audio, but another thing, between us is me and Ara are not in the same room, obviously, when we record. We're actually not even in the same state. We're about like 1,300 miles apart right now. So one of the things that you guys, I'm sure, have picked up on, I've listened to the podcast probably about 10 times, which is probably where all the audio listens are coming from on Apple's side. But it's, we start to talk and then the other person's starting to talk and we don't have those visual cues because we're not in the same room or anything. So we're not trying to overstep each other. We're not trying to diminish the other person. We're working on this as a team, but we're missing some of those cues. So don't think we're trying to be rude to each other, but we're working through it and we're trying to make it as, as much of a flow as we can.
That's right. And then another thing I'd like to say in the beginning of this podcast too, because I've played Torn for a long time and I've wronged people and people have wronged me. And one point I just wanted to make was I want to extend an olive branch to anybody I've wronged and anybody that's wronged me. And because I don't want, I'd like to have everybody welcome on this podcast for interviews, player spotlights, and if any of that is something to be interested in, I don't want you to feel like you can't message me just because of something that happened in the past. I don't care about literally any of that anymore, and I just want to have a fresh start with like literally everybody. I know most people either don't have an opinion on me or like me. I don't know how many people that hate me. It can't be too much. I don't know. But if that's the case, just want to let you know, I just want to be your friend.
When you hit me with 4,000 damage to my groin today, there was a very quick second I almost put you on my enemies list. But, I tried to keep my composure and be even-headed on that one, so I decided not to.
Yeah, that was pretty brutal. I even took an epinephrine beforehand, and I'm at 20 bill strength now, so that means I was coming at you with 100 billion strength to the balls.
Yeah, and my 600 million defense was really stepping up to it was basically like putting a leaf in front of a gunshot. So it was great. I did. All right. So anyway, before we actually get into the main topic of our first discussion, for the first time for us and for the podcast, take a listen to our sponsors.
Get oiled up and check out Swiss Hot Girl Summer. They are Platinum 2, are on an undefeated 3-win streak and aim to keep the ball rolling. They pay a percentage of war winnings and have paid out over $3 million per hit each war. They are looking for players 1 billion plus for battle stats. Make money through murder with Swiss Hot Girl Summer. Contact Shaft 2521807. That was his ID. Or Avenger Red ID 2349542. Are you tired of heretics getting in your way? Turn the tables by joining the Inquisition. They do it all. So if you're bored of your slow-moving faction and want to kick your account into gear, this is the place to go. 1.8 million respect and is utilized efficiently for maximum perks. Ranked War Loot is split with members as well. Contact Arnout, ID 2081105, and up your game today. Heretics need not apply. Glory to the Emperor!
You are listening to The Torn Underground with your hosts, Ara and The Felon.
I'd like to give a big thank you to our first sponsors again. I mean, honestly, it's so awesome that we were able to sell out all of our ad slots for this episode. We really appreciate it. And so our first main topic today, what else could we possibly do besides the stat cap removal? I mean, what the hell? Yeah. How do you feel about it?
We talked about it in the first episode, how this game is constantly changing, and like this is one of those moments where this is a game changer. This is something that's been set in stone for so long. Once you hit 50 million in a stat, it's just static. It's boring. It's the same, gain every single day, every single Xanax that you take. And I mean, this just blows the door off of it. I mean, it's absolutely insane. I mean, honestly, I really want your opinion on this as somebody who is a stat enhancer user. Like, you're somebody who trains with stat enhancers frequently. Like, what do you think about this change, and do you think it's going to affect your gameplay at all?
Well, I think one of the main things I've been seeing from people talking about it is the point of all of it was it brings everybody that's higher in stats closer to the bottom. So I understand that there was a lot of lower stat players complaining, and especially when you see Shaz1 train 420 billion off 1,000 energy. I mean, it's just that you have to consider the fact 420 billion when you have over 1 quadrillion doesn't mean anything. It's negligible. It doesn't do anything. You were gonna hit him for 0 before and after. It doesn't matter. So, like, say for me as someone who is at 23.7 billion, all of my stats are now technically smaller than what they were before. If you started from day one, say it took me, this is literally out of nowhere, so I have not even thinking how long it takes to take for a stat from 10 to say what my defense is, 1,050 million. So while before it would have taken 300 days to get to that stat, to that amount, 1,050 million, now it's going to take 200 days. Again, that's not real math right there. That's just an example. So everything is now easier to achieve. My stats are now easier to achieve than they were before. And I think that's something that the younger players have to consider. Because, I mean, one thing that's for me, I am still kind of a younger player. I just hit 1,700 days. So all these people that are way ahead of me in other stats, because, like, say if someone's at 10 billion, but they're all completely bounced at 2.5 billion, I am now closer to being able to achieve that 2.5 billion in each stat, because it's only my strength that's super high. All the others aren't super high. So now I can get those stats to that number way easier. So that way, if they slack off and I keep the ball rolling and I keep taking Xanax and I go hard at it, I can reach that so much easier now. So now those people that are ahead of me in those stats, they have to go hard, and they have to start now. And if they slack because they've been used to slacking because they've been ahead for so long, they're gonna get taken over by people like me. And that's just simply what's going to happen. I would say what really matters now, my opinion is it doesn't matter the past. What matters now is what you do going forward with this change. So if you take this change in a positive light and you use it to try to start gaining as much stats as you can now and go hard at it and have a renewed vigor, you will overtake people that were saddened by this change, or just maybe the change didn't kick their ass into gear like it should. Because basically, all I'm trying to say is this change, as long as you kick your ass into gear, no matter what side of the spectrum you are on, it will be a good change for you.
Yeah, no, 100%. And so I'm going to read exactly something from Ched's announcement here. And he's talking about the 50 million cap that used to be. And he says, beyond this point, gym gains will now continue to increase at a steadily decreasing rate, allowing for controlled exponential growth more comparable with the gains received from stat enhancers. So for me, like this doesn't. So new players starting off, you're still getting the same gains as you were because you were under the 50 million cap. This really starts to hit home once you have 1 billion in one stat. On that announcement page, he goes into detail about the percentage gain. So now we all know a stat enhancer gives you 1% of whatever stat that you train. So it gives you a 1% boost. So if you were at 1 billion of a stat and you heavily trained, which Ched was saying is like 1,500 energy per day, in the old system, you would gain 10% of your stats each month. But now with the new system, you're going to gain 12.87%. So effectively, by this change, those players that have 1 billion in one stat, Ched is in the game is giving you 2 stat enhancers per month almost on the old system because you're now getting an extra 2%. You really see the biggest change here, though, if once you have 50 billion in a stat, which I mean is huge now, but I think that 50 billion isn't going to be the number that it used to be. But 50 billion in the old system, you would get 0.21% of your stats in a month. That's how much increase you would get from heavily training. Now you're getting 2.4. So you're getting almost 2.5 stat enhancers a month extra by this new change. So I think it's going to help the new players get to spots quicker after the 50 million cap. But honestly, I think this opens up the game, the middle players, the 1 billion to, I hate to say that 50 billion is a middle number, but I think given the system now, I think back in, before this change, if you were in like 10 billion stats, like there was a fair chance you could probably beat a lot of people, except the Hall of Fame players, but you could beat a lot of people. That number is going to go through the roof, especially with the amount of people hoarding books for like energy use or cans or this is going to be huge. This is going to really turn the tides for stats like we're talking.
For real. And a point that I really want to make is stat enhancers are king. This is what my whole argument is right here. Even if when I get my strength to 50 billion, which I will get it to 50 billion, it will still be more beneficial for me to gym train my other stats and use stat enhancers on my strength. Even if by gym training my strength, I could be making 50 million ish or whatever the amount would be daily. And, gym training the other ones, I'm only gaining like 6 million or something like that. It's still better for me to use stat enhancers on strength. So that hasn't changed. Stat enhancers are king. Because if I'm gym training my strength, then my other stats are stagnant. Because obviously I wouldn't gym train my strength and use stat enhancers on my lower stats. That doesn't make any sense. So I really think new players have to consider the fact that I think it makes a huge difference of that stat enhancers are still king. That has not changed.
No, yeah, it's not going to. I mean, there's a player in the forum about the gym stat removal. His name is MG, and he says that it's a great point. So people are saying, oh, Shaz won. He gained 3 billion stats on 10 energy or whatever, right? So if he's making 450 billion stats or something like that. With like a full day of energy training. When he uses a stat enhancer, he gets 5 trillion of the stat. So it's not like this is like, it's like, oh, this is way better than stat enhancers. No, it's not. But for people who can stat enhance train, this is, you're getting double, sometimes triple the amount than you would if you were just stat enhanced training. But I mean, you raise a good point because what this is going to do is it's going to create players that are more well-rounded and balanced in their stats. You're not going to see, I think, as many like specific like whores of a strength or of a stat. I think you're going to see a lot of people try and keep things even now because they can move up much quicker, and that's how you're going to defeat the stat whores in one stat, is by having a well-rounded fight. So I think it definitely mixes up the game quite a bit in terms of like how you want to proceed with your own stats.
Right. And obviously, we're not the only ones with opinions, and that's okay. And I still respect everybody else's opinion. If you're a new player and you think I'm wrong, I get it. I do. And with that said, I'm going to go into some quotes, and we're going to start with the younger players' quotes that I was able to get. The first quote is Gabe97. And so he said, at first, I had mixed feelings about it, but overall, I liked it very much. I have goals, and this update makes me able to reach them faster. People don't usually change, so those who didn't focus on gaining stats won't do it even after this huge update, so I can outgrow them. And I think that goes exactly into the first point I was trying to make was I am going to catch everybody that's slacking so much easier
Yes.
now. And
Yep.
so Gabe97 knows exactly what's going on, and he's ready to kill it.
Yeah. No, for sure. The people who were not focusing on gym trains before and maybe were just doing that one SE, a week or every couple of days or something, you're going to find the people that you are easily beating, that they're going to focus hard in the gym and use those books. And yeah, they're going to be right there with you.
Yeah. And next off, and I got to say props to this guy's name. Something about it just makes me laugh so hard. I don't know. So this next quote is vaguely Canadian. He is vaguely Canadian.
Just vaguely.
I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I love it. So he said, I think the best part about the gym cap removal is the fact that no one can seem to agree on who it benefits. New players think old players benefit more because they are immediately reaping massive benefits, like Shaz doing a happy jump for 420 billion stats in one go, while old players are convinced it is the new players benefiting as they can't reach the places the older players have spent building up to much faster and cheaper than they did in their time. The end result has been a sorry. The end result has been a shit flinging contest across several forum posts, and I'm always game for some more forum drama. And as such, I fully support the mechanic change.
That's incredible. I mean, he hits it right on the head. Like, yes, some people are going to say it's the new guys that are going to benefit from this, in which I can see. Like, yes, the people who are higher stats where they may have to claw to get, because, you're not gaining any more after the 50 million. So these people that trained from 50 million to even a billion without using stat enhancers, yes, you went through way more energy or cans or FHEs or whatever you used to get there than the new players will have to. Yes, that's true. But I mean, the game changes. Look at Bodybagger. He was using SEs when it didn't even count towards your cooldown for boosters. Like that, he got a place that new players wouldn't even be able to get to that as quickly because there's measures in place to do that. But I mean, on the flip side, I see, like Shaz, yes, happy jumping for 400 billion is crazy. But I mean, let's face it, nobody's gonna touch that stat anyway. So it's like that 400 billion jump, whether he had the extra 400 billion or he didn't, you still weren't hitting him. So it's, it definitely impacts both sides, and I can see where both sides come from. But at the end of the day, just like Mr. Vaguely Canadian said, is I think the mechanic is great. I think the game change is great.
And for the next quote, we got -0. And he said, I personally was still below the stat cap when the stat cap got removed. I've got mixed feelings about this update. On the one hand, it gives players faster gain without having to break the bank on SCs, but greater gains mean nothing if everyone else progresses at the same rate. You can never be strong. You can only be stronger relative to your peers. This update will allow players to close the gap between old and active players and them much quicker, but the gap between the strongest and the rest of Torn also grows.
Yeah, I mean, true. I mean, yes, the people that are way up there are going to keep getting way up there. But I mean, that's just the game. It's all about who you surround yourself with and what you're competing against. I mean, when I hit a billion stats, right? I knew at a billion I was nowhere near the strongest in Thorn. Not even I was a drop in the bucket when it comes to stats. But I knew that there were enough people below me that I could have fun, and I stopped. Honestly, I stopped really training hard, and I started doing ranked wars, and I started, doing bounty hunting on for bounties. Like it's all about what you want your gameplay to be. Yes, you will never be the biggest fish in the sea. It's not going to happen. But it's just how you want your game to be played. Like I chose that when I got to a certain level, I knew there were people I could beat, that I changed it up. And now with this update, I think it's going to bring a lot of people, honestly, including myself, back to the stats. Like things are more achievable. Like 5 billion was like way out there, but now it's like it's relatively attainable given the new changes. So yeah, I mean, I same thing with that quote. I completely agree with what he's saying.
For the last one, we've got Bierstein. So he's a longtime player, and I would say he knows what he's talking about. I was looking at what he was saying in the forum thread for it, so I reached out to him and to see if he wanted to give us a quote directly for this, because I honestly, there are some like forum posts that I could have just pulled right from there, but so this is what he had to say, knowing that it's going on the podcast, and all the other quotes were known. They wrote it for the podcast, but I just want to say all that because Bierstein, he had a lot to say, and the thread for that, and he was one of the ones on the front line, basically saying how this is actually the best for younger players. And there's actually a line in this that it'll hurt to read. I wonder if you'll catch it when I read it. So he said, new players, great. It de-ages a game by pulling the older players closer to the new start line. This works same as power creep in any game where it's easier to get to the virtual end game than it used to be. Middle of the road players, danger zone. Get off your ass. You're closer to new players than you think. You slack off, you'll find yourself at the bottom of the pack instead of the top pack. Old players, dragged down the furthest, but also just need to keep pace and they'll stay on top. Missing from what everyone is talking about. Poor players that put everything into stats. A few would literally
burn.
A few literally would use SCs as they got the money to. Just got thrown off a roof. I'm okay. Rich, there's more. Rich players or thrifty ones that were creating savings to generate income are the big winners, even bigger than new players. This is the mentality Body Bagger had in the early days. Sacrifice stats for income, then use that income to generate more stats later. In this case, they can now generate those stats at a much higher rate with that money they saved. A lot of players spent a lot of money on cans and FHCs to get over the hump to stat enhancer levels. Players that were actively doing that got hurt the most. They got much less efficient gains than they can now. I'm okay. I really am. Players that were about to start doing it benefited the most. They spent forever preparing for it and they just got buffed.
Are you okay over there?
Yeah, so if you couldn't catch it, I had maybe like a 73. No, I think I like just hit 70 billion net worth, which is ironic because that's also how much I RMT'd for. And then once I hit that, I blew everything on SEs, and I don't regret it. It was fun, and I am enjoying my big biceps. But with that said, even though I don't regret it, he's right. Even if it hurts to say that, basically the thing that I just did just got thrown off a roof, he's right. It is what it is. I think he gave a really good quote there.
Yeah. No, I mean 100%. And it's something I really didn't even think of until you just said it. But yeah, the people who were saving up money to get into the SEs or saving up money to use books, like those are the people that are going to benefit huge right now. Like we have a guy in my faction right now, Coma. He's been buying up cans recently because he has the can book. And as soon as this was removed, I messaged him and wow, like how much did you pay Ched to like wait until you were ready to use this book before he, took this off? Because the gains you're going to see are going to be crazy compared to what it would have been before the cap was lifted. So for sure, people who were getting ready to start, going into SEs or start, if you had the money to FHC train every single day and max out your booster that way, you're going to see like gains like that are going to be unheard of. Like you're going to set the way, like the gains that you were supposed to get, you're going to be way above that. So it's going to be crazy to see the new players that jump ahead. And I think you had said it, how he said it benefits the players and that they're closer to the middle guys than they were. It's going to change the game where like if you go to attack somebody, you can't just they're 500 days old, they can't be that good in stats, I'm going to hit them. Like now if they played the game right, they could be above players that have been playing for 1,000, 1,500 days if you weren't gym heavy. So yeah, I think it's going to flip the game for sure.
Oh man, I'm just thinking about those books because I've used all the good ones, Ugly Energy, you name it. I've used all the good ones already. And
I have not used a single good one yet. So they're just sitting in my inventory because I've always been too poor to use them.
God,
so I guess,
so
now I guess it's the time to start saving and use those books accordingly. I mean, make sure you're getting into the right gyms, it's like, it's going to be huge. And actually, so the one quote I got was from a player named Gem, and I'm sure a lot of people know her. She's risen through the ranks quite quickly as well, but she talks about the restaurant company. And I think this is going to be a huge game changer for this company because the 10-star perk is 25% consumable cooldown reduction. So now you're gaining an extra 25% of the cans or boosters that you can use. And let me get to her message here that she sent me. So now you're taking 16 30 energy cans a day that you can take in. And with faction specials, it's 16 45 energy cans. So you're getting an extra 720 energy in one day to train. And on top of that, the restaurant has the 1-star perk is 3 energy per job point. So you also are getting 30 energy on top of that. So 750 energy per day extra that you can use by maxing out your booster cooldown with cans if you're in a faction with the can boost as well. I think it's gonna be huge for that company. If you get into that's something that if you want to work on stat growth, you gotta look for companies like this. Companies that give you the extra booster, because booster is where it's going to be at when it comes to, especially if you're in SE range or if you're training with the new gains. This is where you're going to want to be able to take more of those. So I think she's absolutely right. It changed how you progress in the game stat wise, but it's gonna flip this company upside down with the amount of people that are going to want to join into it now.
Yeah, good point. I'm considering it myself.
You have to get all those other stats up now.
Yeah. And with that said, to pay the bills, we are going to play some more ads for you.
Run it.
Ever wondered if there's a safe place to sell your items for amazing prices? Well, wonder no more, as there is Wonder's Wonderland. I'm Wonder. That's WUNDA, and I'm a trusted trader. I buy basically anything for very competitive prices. That includes private islands, SEs, rank war stuff, boosters, packs, cans, plushies, you name it, and I probably buy it. I am one of the most active players in Torn, so expect quick and friendly service. Feel free to send me a trade or message anytime, and let's do some business. Just holla at Wonder. That's WUNDA. We are Riot, and you could be just the person we're looking for. We're an active and ambitious faction pushing for platinum rank, with all the usual perks you'd expect from 3.6 million respect. We have a wealth of knowledge and support for new players and experienced vets alike. Join a faction that's participating in ranked warring every other week. In the past 3 months, we've paid over 20 billion to our members at an average rate of 2.5 million per hit. We are also active in the stock market with a lively Discord that has dedicated stock chat and alert channels. To top it off, we provide a faction stock fund. This way, we can make sure everyone gets their share of the profits. Join Riot now.
You are listening to the Torn Underground with your hosts, Ara and the Felon.
All right, and welcome back to the second half of our second episode here on Torn Underground. We're going to get into a couple things happening around Torn, and for anybody who's been in the forums recently, I'm sure you've all seen this, but it's the saga of PT Magno and the whole Tortuga API key stuff. So something we just want to highlight here, in case, maybe you haven't checked the forums and you have no idea what I'm talking about, but this was kind of a huge thing that just came out. So it's centered around this guy named Magno. Hopefully I'm pronouncing his name right. Who I believe was a leader of PT of the family. And some stuff has gone down about a site that they use called Tortuga. From my understanding, it's kind of like a website, kind of like Torn Stats, but mainly geared towards the PT family, where they're able to track the players and their stats and their growth and, kind of make sure everyone is in line. But what it looks like is this guy named Alta F. Hussein noticed that he had canceled a ghost trade and got randomly mugged. And it looks like it happened twice to him. So him doing some investigation, he looked into it, and it came out that at the time when he got mugged, his API was pulled. Now, for people who don't know what that is, API is a set of numbers that links to your profile, and depending on the access that you give to that API, I mean, it can see your entire game. Basically, if somebody has like your full access API, they can sit at their computer and watch you play the game. They can see every move that you make, every event that happens. So it's something not to be taken lightly. And he, I guess, did some digging and it came back to the API that he had given to the PT leaders for this website that was being pulled. And of course, it wasn't taken lightly. I mean, this is something that Torn holds near and dear when they put out this whole API update and the things that you can do with it. One of the biggest things is if you are entrusted with someone's API, you need to make sure that it cannot be taken or used against them. And unfortunately, that's exactly what happened. And I mean, one of the reasons I feel like we want to highlight this whole incident is because it's a crime game. Yes, you do crimes and you do drugs and you attack people and everything, but the game still has the obligation to make sure it's still fair for everyone. And this is just one of those things that unfortunately it was. I mean, you look at Magno's account and he was 6,312 days old at the time of this recording, over 17 years in the game. And to make the decisions to do this, it cost him his account. It's in federal jail permanently for scripting abuse. So, admins looked into it and they came to the realization that he was using these API keys to negatively impact other people's games and positively impact his. I mean, there's not really I don't know if there's any reports on how much he may have gotten out of this. I know they said they're going to try and get some people paid back, but I mean, it's an incredible story. I mean, what do you think on this, Ara?
It really goes to show that Torn is, just because it's a crime game doesn't mean that this is how you play it. You said it in the beginning. It's a crime game, but this isn't how you do it. And just like when I RMT'd, that was putting myself at a very unfair advantage towards the rest of the players. And that's the reason that they took the action against me, and that was the fair action. I do think that it is fair that he lost his account, because the way he was cheating was just directly negatively impacting everybody. Obviously, I am thankful to have been welcomed back to play the game. I could have stuck on the same account, or I did what I did and restarted, and that was welcome as well. I did ask them to make sure that I could restart. So there's no secret about that. Um, it's just it's tough. He was put in a position of trust and he abused it, and you reap what you sow. And I would say this case is just so much worse than vault scammers. That's just super petty. Vault scamming is super petty, but so is this, and
Mhm.
it's it's abusing trust, which is exactly what vault scamming is. And while vault scamming is legal, obviously this is not.
Yeah, no, 100%. And looking through Bogey's post, he said that it looks like it was approximately about $20 billion that he had gotten from this. But I mean, this is a guy who, I mean, his account is massive when it comes to like stat enhancers use. So, I mean, 20 billion isn't necessarily his account. It's not like it's a crazy a crazy amount, but I think that's honestly what makes it worse is that for that amount of money, 20 billion in this game unfortunately is not a game changing amount. And for that you kind of lose your entire profile and your entire history. I mean, I'm looking at his account now, 734 stat enhancers used, net worth of 29 billion, and that he had, it looks like liquid. So I mean, a big account that, and a lot of knowledge, and that's actually one of the things Bogey said, is to lose an account with this much knowledge about the game. I mean, it's tough. It's like you said, it's just in the actions, but it stinks to lose a player of that magnitude to the game.
Right. And I mean, also, if you look at his net worth for the past 5 years, say 5 years ago, his net worth, and this is 5 years ago, his net worth was 466 billion. Let's go with like 2.5 years ago, it was 127 billion. It peaked about a year ago. It peaked into July of last year, 2021. He was around like 214 billion. It looks like 219 billion was the peak. That's a lot of money. And so that looks like, I mean, it's hard to tell the timeline. It looks like he went hard at it and then tried to calm it down a little bit. Because I mean, this was happening for a few years, correct?
Yeah. As far as I know, yeah, it's and it was only against, from what I understand, ex players, of course, because the attack logs can be seen within the faction. So it looks like it's members that have left PT that he was targeting.
Right. And there's this huge drop. I mean, let's see if we can figure this out right here, because July, he had that upwards of 200 billion net worth. And then all of a sudden, in the beginning of August, it dropped all the way to 76 billion. Let's see if that's where the stat enhancers came into play. So around July for so let's see here. July 6th, he had 530 U's. August 12th, he had
Yeah, I mean, it looks like, yeah, he
545.
went.
So yeah, no, he didn't even
Yeah,
use that many since. So that big drop in net worth wasn't even from SC usage. It could have been just
yeah,
putting it into the faction, or into the
yeah.
PT stock fund.
Usually, yeah, I would say the stock fund. Usually, these big, they usually have one guy hold everything.
Yeah, so he
So
didn't
it
just blow
definitely
it all
definitely
on
could have done
stat enhancers. So yeah, it was
that. Hmm.
probably either one of those things, not the stat enhancers. He ended up using a lot more since that July thing, but it pretty much stagnated over the last year then. So I mean, it sounds like he was more so stuffing this money away, but I mean, I think I saw some forum posts on the thread that caught my eye, and I didn't look through the whole thread, so there's better. I mean, what can you blame me? It was 86 pages. It was crazy. Um, So the first one that caught my eye was Indubitably, and I probably pronounced that horribly. Um, and they said if he was willing to cheat for 50 mil mugs, he's got a lot more cheating behavior on his account. Who knows what this loser has done in the past to get ahead of others unfairly? Obviously, we can't prove that. That's only speculation. But I think there's merit to what they're saying. It sounds like they got some good mugs. It looks like the best mug was around like 2.2 billion. It was around that, not exactly, but it was around that was the best mug. But it sounds like most of the mugs were for a lot less. So I would agree if you're willing to mug for 50 mil in a cheating way. I would argue that you'd be willing to cheat in other ways. So we we can't say he really cheated in any other ways during the past 5 years, but like all I'm saying is I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know they said the scripting, the API abuse, they said has been going on since December of 2019. So
Oh my god!
now we're looking at almost going on 3 years this December. So about 2.5 years it's been going on.
Right.
But they said it ramped up significantly just recently. So, I mean, you also got to think. I mean, this guy knew what he's doing is wrong, and he was under the radar for so long. Was he just hate to say it, was he just looking to get caught? He flew under the radar since December of 2019, and then just recently started really getting back into it hard, which is what caused him to get caught. You wonder if he was just at the point where it's maybe he's done everything that he wanted to do in game, and this is the way you kind of go out with a bang and just call it a day, because Torn will fix the issue and give back to whatever needs to be done, but. To be flying under the radar for that long, all of a sudden get caught, either, maybe get lazy, slip up, or, maybe he was just done, and that's the only way he knew how to end it.
Right. Yeah. That net worth drop I was talking about probably even had nothing to do with it. It happened while, a few years into the abuse, but as he said, so it looks like it started ramping up in the last year.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that was prep for it then, because that huge net worth drop was a year, almost just about a year ago. Now, so maybe that was prep to start really ramping up on it. It's something that we just don't fully understand ourselves.
Yep. Yeah. No. Yeah. It's. I mean, I'm sure we'll never have all the answers, because I mean, according to everything that I've read too, nobody else in PT knew that this was going on. It came as a shock to everybody. I know there's a screenshot in one of the pages of the PT Discord where the notification went out that they're standing by him because they don't know what's going on. But there's always kind of need a plan to move forward after that. So I mean, they talked to a lot of the the higher ranking people in PT, and not a single person knew that this was going on. So he definitely acted alone in it. And it's just. Again, it's one of those things that you entrusted one person, and sometimes too much power can get to people.
Oh, 100%. Power goes to people's heads.
Yeah,
this is how it is. There's a lot of studies on that.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the ultimate lesson that we can take away from this is API keys are an extremely powerful tool in this game. For good and bad. I mean, the things that you can do with API is incredible. A guy in my faction, again, Coma, who I talked about earlier, he just made a spreadsheet that tracks the rank warring, your net respect. So as the war is going on, it's calculating how many times you've been hit and how in the respect that you're earning off of your hits. So you can see who's bleeding respect or who's actually earning respect. And that's all through API pulls. And it's incredible what you can do with API. But at the same time, if you are giving out your API key, one, make sure that you are giving out the appropriate access level. Don't give full access to somebody who just needs basic access for the faction. And what I do is when I give it out, you can create a name for the API, just label it like, faction Discord bot. That way, if that's what's being pulled and you see it being pulled, you can kind of figure out why. And at the same time, set a reminder every little bit. Try and reset your API. I know some people say they try and do it once a month or once every 2 months. Just make sure you keep up with it to avoid things like that, especially if you're giving out. You don't know any site that you go into, Yada or TornStats or whatever. Any of these sites could be attacked and hacked and looked into, and your API can be stolen, and that's going to negatively impact your game. So it's the API key is huge when it comes to your gameplay. So just make sure you're protecting it. Be smart with it. Reset it when you're, every once in a while. If you see something weird, look into it. See what's going on with it.
And definitely reset it every time you leave a faction.
Oh yeah, the guy started off the forum with that. Is if you've left there, reset. But yeah, if you leave a faction, reset your API. I mean, you don't. Again, same thing like this. You don't know what they're going to do with it. If you're no longer in the faction, they don't need it anymore. Just reset it, get rid of it, delete it, whatever you got to do. Just protect yourself.
Right. The other post that called out to me was by Midrash. Midrash. It's Midrasche. So however you want to say that. Imagine having the ability to abuse APIs and using them to get tiny 2 mil to 3 mil mugs. Guy should have held out for fewer, more lucrative mugs. I mean, obviously he did get some of those lucrative mugs, but it does sound like a lot of his mugs weren't, crazy. I mean, obviously it totaled to 20 billion from what they know, and that's a solid amount. But, I know one of those mugs was like 2.2 billion ish. That's a solid chunk of that.
That was the biggest mug.
Yeah. Right. And also, I feel like when you really think about it, when, it was over the course of about like 3 years, then 20 billion is not that much over the course of 3 years. So it makes sense that it was mostly smaller mugs.
And I mean, I'm sure for a lot of people, it's, you get mugged for $1 million or 2 million. You're like, shit, shouldn't have been carrying money on me. Like, you're not really going to look into it. So I'm sure by targeting that, it's, it kept him under the radar for that long as well. Because I mean, sometimes I forget I have money on me and get mugged, and it's just, whoops, like I forgot, like, it's, you're not going to look into that. But if you see you're getting mugged for 50 million as soon as a trade ends, that's a whole nother story.
That's a great point. Okay. I do kind of change my feelings of that post then.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm sure that's, what the guy's thinking as well. Like, yeah, you want to save out, but on the flip side, if you're a mastermind criminal, obviously like myself, you want to fly under the radar. So you kind of do those smaller amounts to, make sure you're off of the radar for it.
That's right. And that leads us to our next story, which will actually kind of tie the stat cap removal.
Yeah, 100%. So this next one, I find it hilarious, but let's see. The guy's name is, well, now it's Sharky5, right? I think he changed his name, but his original name was 811. I think was his name.
Yep, 811.
He's been known by a whole bunch of names, but 811 was his most recent. So, kind of funny what the guy did. He's basically restarting Torn on hard mode. He liquidated everything that he had, turned everything into cash, and blew it all on stat enhancers. And he actually got up to number 10 in Torn for stats. He capped out at 3.8 trillion total stats and a $0 net worth. And he has, his picture of his items showing that he literally had 0 items left in his inventory. And he made it his goal just to kind of start over. He has the stats to pretty much do what he wants to make money back. And that's kind of his thing. So now the reason why I bring up him changing his name is the first thing he did to get money was he sold the rights to change his name. So he let everybody bid, whatever they wanted, and whatever the highest bidder was, that's what he was changing his name to. So I think a $300 million bid won, and he changed his name to Sharky5 for the next 3 months. So I find it hilarious. I think it's a really interesting way to play the game. You get up to this point and you're kind of like, I'm going to start over. He lived in a shack. He sold his private island. He got rid of everything and he's starting over. But it's almost like starting over with an advantage, because when you have the stats, you can bounty hunt, you can merc in wars, you can get outside contracts, you can do all that stuff to kind of enable you to buy the money. So I think it's an interesting way. And I mean, kind of almost on the somewhat of the same, but you kind of had to do that hard reset, except you started with zero, everything except the knowledge of the game.
Right. And then another reason this story kind of tugs at my heart is because I did basically what he did, but on a much smaller scale. So, I got up to, I told it earlier, I got up to like 70 billion in net worth, and I pretty much almost zeroed it to use stat enhancers. And so obviously I did not get to 3.8 trillion. So he had a much higher net worth than I did. And I do know that he had, I think he had already, I remember seeing, achievement thread for him for like 100 billion dexterity. I'm unless he changed it up though, the 3.8 trillion is probably mostly all dexterity, I would imagine, because that's what he was always SCing to get up there. But yeah, it's just like, it's basically what I did. And the reason this ties into the end of the episode there's more, we're gonna have a player spotlight and all that stuff, stay tuned. But for the talking about the stats is because we talked about how Beer Scene was saying somebody that liquidated their entire net worth for stats got thrown off a roof, and that's what he did. And so I'm not trying to like throw shade at him and say that like, oh, it was a bad idea. As I said, I love it because I did the exact same thing. It's just, it is interesting that he did it like literally right before the change. I mean, he posted it looks like after the fact of the change, but you would have already been using those stat enhancers to make it happen because you can only take 4 a day. So the announcement for the change was 12 days ago. His thread came 5 days ago. So for that amount of SCs, he was already almost to his goal when the stat cap removal was announced. So he didn't really have any choice to decide if this was still something he wanted to do. If he had, known that this was going to happen, I would bet he would still have done it. I can't speak for him. But it sounds like most of the reasoning was just to have like a restart, but with like a ridiculous stat.
Yeah, basically. I think he actually said it that he was like doing it on hard mode or something like that. I can't remember his exact words, but I think that's what he kind of said. He was like, restarting on hard mode. And I mean, to be honest, he's doing pretty well. At the time of recording right now, his net worth is already back up to just over 3 billion. So, he has a recap in the achievement of what he's done. He's doing mercenary work. He's playing Russian roulette. God love you. But he's like, he talks about appreciating the small things, like getting a 1 million, claiming a $1 million bounty, which allows him to buy Xanax before the cooldown is up. Like, it's those things that like new players have to deal with. He has that advantage where he can get like, these bounties on level 100s for $1 million and stuff like that. But like, it's that thing, like, you don't have any money and you need to figure out where the next Xanax price is coming from. Searching the item market, he said he found an FHC that was $800,000 under the market price that he could, flip quick. Like, it's things like that, like, you forget as a bigger player, where if I need to go buy a Xanax, I'll just go buy a Xanax. If I need to buy 10, I'll buy 10. If I buy 100, I buy 100. It's not a big deal. But these new players who are fighting to get that Xanax, and he's doing it, later in the game, and seeing that perspective, I think it's incredible. I think it was really cool. He said he made $169 million bounty hunting in the first week. I mean, with stats like that, you probably don't have to use the energy to train until now, when the cap is removed. But it's so crazy, starting over like that. So big kudos to him. I personally I don't know if I'd be able to do it. I don't think I'd have the balls to do it because I think I would fail. But good on him for doing it and you're seemingly succeeding as well.
You know, it is funny that you say that, because I remember, I mean, like for like, you know, like the little things that matter and that you just kind of forget about when you progress a lot in Torn. I remember being like 14 at tennis camp, and yes, I was good at tennis. If there's any sport I was good at, it was tennis. And you can do with that information what you will. um, so yeah, I remember being in tennis camp, and while, you know, just slinging that ball back and forth like a goddamn pro, I remember going over in my head my plan to get a ranch. A ranch. No one cares about ranches.
Not at all.
And I remember going over my head my plan to get a goddamn ranch, and I was gonna be pimping in that ranch. And
Yep.
and that's just it's one of the things you lose when you get up there. I do miss those little things. I do. As much as it's nice to, you know, have money, and I mean, I don't have a crazy net worth, so I can't really say it like that. But like, you know, have high stats and stuff like that. It's nice. I don't know. It's just,
Yeah.
I feel like I do miss the little things of Torn getting started for sure.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, yeah, you're fighting to get that next Xanax, or you know, you're fighting for your happy jump, and then you finally get it all, and you the ecstasy and you OD. Like it's all of those things. Like you don't have to worry about ODing on ecstasy and losing 1,000 energy and a handful of EDVDs and all that. Like you don't have to worry about that anymore. So yeah, you definitely lose that sense of like scraping rock bottom. Which he's going through relatively obviously quickly because he has a little bit of advantage going into it, but you know, he's making great work getting back up to what he is, and I'm interested to see, you know, his next step if he, you know, hits a certain net worth and does it again, or you know, tries to do something else. It's, you know, a lot of longtime players I guess can get bored, and he's not even really that old of an account. 7 years in relative to Torn is not that old, but it's always good to see what people do to kind of bring a new challenge to the game, you know, like he's doing. So it's pretty cool. And speaking of challenges, he has the second achievement that he has posted. His most wanted reward. So for people in detective agency where you can arrest somebody, his reward is the highest, I think, right now. At the time it was posted, I think it was 10.5 million. I think he's above that now. I thought he said he was closer to 15 million now, but insane. And with stats like that, and when you're number 10, I don't think that's going to be claimed for a while. So very interested to see how high that ends up going, because there's not many people in a detective agency that will be able to touch him. So I'm interested to see how high that's going to go.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to get it. He is the antithesis to my build. He's a dexterity whore.
Yep.
So
yeah, so you'll never be able to hit him.
Yeah, so my 20 bill strength doesn't really matter, even if I take an epinephrine, if I can't land a shot.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the toughest part about his build is you don't see a lot of people whoring decks, but that's a tough one to overcome. Definitely tough because you got to hit him.
Yeah, I mean, really, the only thing you can do now is sure shot with the ranked war weapon. So you have that like little percent chance. It's a tiny percent chance to get a guaranteed hit. So that's the only way now, pretty much.
Yeah. Yep, pretty much. Yeah, that's crazy.
And next up is the player highlight.
You are listening to the Torn Underground with your hosts Ara and the Felon.
So now we've got our second player spotlight, and we are very happy to welcome Burning Man as our next one. Welcome, Burning Man.
It's great to be here. Ara, Felon, great to hear that you guys started a podcast about Torn. I do not have anybody in real life to talk about Torn with since my spouse went inactive, and I don't see him that much anymore. So nerding out about this text-based RPG game that nobody really knows about is just going to be great. I'm looking forward to this.
Absolutely.
We're a special kind, aren't we?
It's a weird group, right?
It really is.
Like the friendliest cult you'll ever meet.
Some of the worst people in game that will do the worst things to you, but at the same time, some of the most friendly, helpful people that will just, here's $10 million just to get going, have fun.
That's the community.
Yeah. So to get started, let's start pretty basic here. How did you find Torn, and how did you come up with your name?
I started around 2009. Two of my friends started playing it, and they were, bookworm brainiacs who loved to crunch numbers. They started a faction called Loaded Pipes, and all their names were about, smoking weed. My spouse's name is Chief Blunts. His friend was Roll Another. I had a bad name back then. I changed it to Burning Man just to go along with the aesthetic of the faction.
Okay.
And I was, just all about, the culture of smoking weed.
Hey, I love smoking weed. I was smoking earlier, so I totally get it.
Who doesn't? It's not that stigmatized these days, so
it's really not. And also, in my state, it is now completely legal. We don't have any recreational dispensaries coming. They're coming. They're not here yet, but they are coming. So that's pretty cool.
I don't even smoke that much weed these days, man.
Oh, it's what I prefer. It's just so much more expensive than alcohol, so you can find yourself drinking a little bit more. It's just easier. So, what is your favorite element of Torn?
Pretty much the long game of just, I can log in every day. It's very casual and just watch those numbers rise. But I really love the crime aspect because the CE is a hidden stat that, you don't really know where you stand, and you have to really try to, keep your standing up. And
Right.
it's all a gamble of just like, where are you really? It's not a number that you can see on a board anywhere.
Yeah, that does make it. I think that's one of the reasons for me personally that I had a little bit of a harder time getting into the criminal aspects, the crime stuff in Torn, because like now I can do political assassinations, so I'm cool with myself now. That's some easy money every single week. It helps that I'm in a big faction. Um, but I think for someone like me, it goes to show how different personalities can find what they like about Torn. I love how, something that is what the hidden aspect of it is what got you into it, while it kept me a little bit more away from that. And that's awesome that something as simple as that can change how two people feel about it.
And finding like the the right people around you, like the factions that are really geared towards crime. Like I've jumped from faction to faction, like, just trying to find ones that were, hey, we're trying to build PA teams. We're not trying to chain or war. If we do chain, it is totally, you can or you can't. Like if you want to chain, it's fine, but it's not mandated.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, it goes along exactly with what I was saying, because like, I've never been in a faction where the focus was on PAs. I'm happy to be in a top faction because that way it's got the focus on, wars, and then they also do all the PAs and stuff like that. So it really keeps me engaged in that. But what advice would you give to someone who wants to go the criminal route?
If you're a noob, get your drug crimes out of the way. If you want, for the long term to get the merits, because later on it's going to mess you up. Like I went back and tried to get like some of the drug crimes, and just like, getting jailed a couple of times, like I cringed so hard, just like, oh my god, I went to jail. Like, how many arson warehouses am I gonna have to do to recoup that CE loss? That's the biggest one. Get those out of the way just to get those merits. So like in the long run, that is done. You have the merits, and then when you're, however many years in, you're not just like, man, that's some merits left on the table, and you don't want to go back and get them because you just feel like you're going to mess up your stats or where you're at.
And that's when you start hacking.
No.
Felon,
You
no. Get the fuck out of here.
If you start hacking, you never stop hacking. You're a hacker.
Yeah. The money, it draws me.
It is funny that you said that though, because that's exactly what I did. I got them out of the way pretty early.
I did quite a few in the last year. I think I just like jumped up another 1,000, but I got so many jails. It didn't mess up my ranking in my faction of like where I stand in the CE ranking, but
Right.
still, just like every time, just like inside it hurts.
Yeah.
I'm looking at your stats right now. You have 126,000 criminal offenses. That's insane.
Naughty. It's not good.
That's crazy.
I did, I think like 2 years ago, spam just getting changed because I wanted to get into the top 250 of offenses.
Oh,
Yep.
Gotcha. I did the same thing except for to rank up quicker. So I have 20,000 2 nerve crimes done as well. Looks like you got almost 22,000.
Yep.
So you
Aura
gotta do
has
what you gotta do.
0 computer crimes.
Hey, I don't know how to
Start
work computers.
coding some viruses and start getting some viruses out there, right? You need to be a well-rounded player.
Hey man, why do you think the editing of this shit is horrible? Oh god.
That's funny.
Do you guys? I'm sure you're pretty old, but like, have you ever heard of like the old pre versus post nerf busting thing?
Yes. Massive.
Yeah.
That was, I had a hiatus back in the day, where like before my hiatus, when I came out of my hiatus, the nerf already happened,
Mm-hmm.
and I only had like 100 busts under, that system. And the CE that you used to get of the pre-nerf busts apparently was insane.
Yeah.
Because that was like a huge talking point of like old PA teams of trying to get into one, or like anybody trying to organize, was like, how many pre-nerf busts do you have? And nobody really talks about it anymore because it's like it happened so long ago.
Yeah, and I think with like Torn stats, where you can go on and check your like CE predictor to like see what you're at to build a PA team, I think that's what kind of got the talking put away from it. But I know the pre-nerf for busting was massive. I think in the forums there was somebody who did a PA with like 4 Greenleaf players, and it's because they had all that crime experience from the pre-nerf when it came to busting. So it was massive. It's one of those things that the game has changed that, people, if you got into it beforehand, yeah, it was huge for you.
Oh yeah, that was Rosie.
Yes. Yep.
The CE, she is a CE master. Like, I used to follow her from like faction to faction, just like if I would stay in a faction and get bored and be like, where's Rosie at? So I know that she's going to be just great at organizing PA teams. And
Yep.
hell, if I was lacking, she would carry me.
Yeah.
If she
For
could
sure.
carry 3 Greenleafs, I think she could basically do
Yeah,
anything.
absolutely. Yeah, no kidding. Like, that's insane.
Do you think those 3 Greenleafs got a cut?
Yeah, they got their names in the forum. That's about it.
Oh yeah,
And I think
honestly, just that would be enough.
they got like an extra. They got like an extra. Like their natural nerve went up by I think like 20 or something.
Are you? Wait, really?
Just from that. Yeah, just from that one success.
What the?
Yeah, their natural nerve like jumped through the roof because I can't remember what it is. I can try and pull it up real quick, but I know it's gonna take me a second.
I mean, if that's how it works, then you could sell spots for that to boost.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
that.
it's convincing these Greenleafs that have no idea about the game. Like, hey, you should pay me to come in here and do this, type of thing.
Yeah, I guess it'd have to be like a restart situation.
Yeah,
that knows exactly what they want and has the money for it.
Agreed.
So, would you say is that like the favorite story you have for Crimes Burning Man? Because I mean, that was a big one, or is there something else?
That would be. That was like the most exciting. Everything else, like if you're going the crime route, it is very, head down, nose to the grindstone. Try not to bother anybody else and just rob people.
Also, I just looked it up. So a political assassination is equivalent to about 650 arsons.
Oh,
so yeah, a Greenleaf with 650 arsons underneath their belt, right after that, that's a jump.
Boom.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Absolutely insane.
So I'm in a great faction right now for PAs. Evo, we're under the nuclear umbrella. I mean, we'll run 18 to 20 PA teams every week.
Jesus.
So
that's solid.
We got some big boys in here.
And yeah, that's is that so would you say the faction is pretty much geared towards organized crime?
Straight up towards organized crime.
Gotcha.
Trying to build PA teams, and everybody is just super chill, super nice. Like we're doing a chain in about 2 days. It's like a birthday chain for somebody. We're just gonna do like a 5,000. Nothing crazy. You don't even participate if you don't want.
Okay. So very chill, focus on crimes, that kind of stuff. That's the kind of faction you'd like to be in.
Yeah, just nothing obligatory.
Right.
Like I was in Calculated back in the day.
Okay.
And I was in a couple like high level factions. And then like when certain people left, like not to feel like I got left behind, but like I stayed with them. I was like, man, these people want a lot out of me. And I play the game very casually.
Right.
And I hate being like, oh man, like having to war.
See, that's the thing. That's the thing. That's so great about you take what you want from Torn, because I would say I'm probably like the exact opposite as you, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, same. Yep. Yeah, I've been warring every single week for a couple months. I hop from my family of factions around to get to another war. Just because, I mean, that's exactly like you said, though. That's what interests me the most is just like the wars and the strategy when it comes to that. Which, I mean, we could argue day and night that building a PA team is probably just as much strategy as going into war. You need to figure out who your leads are going to be and who you can team up with to make sure it's successful. So it's that's the crazy part about this game is the strategy on both sides of the spectrum.
That's right. And for our last question, Burning Man, it's gonna be a good one. What aspect of Torn are you also into in real life?
Cars and guns.
There you go.
Guns, love it.
There's cars and guns in Torn. What's your favorite car?
I'm gonna say my favorite one is the one I own. I have a '90 Corvette that
That's awesome.
I haven't destroyed it like all my old cars.
That's a classic right there. And it kind of gives me an excuse while we're talking about cars. I always have like something like, the complete opposite, because I bought a 2022 WRX, Subaru WRX, which I'm having a great time with. It's my first new car, And oh man,
I love seeing a WRX on the road. Dude, those are absolutely beautiful, and you would smoke me in a second.
Would I really? I mean, I guess it is from the 90s. I mean, you got to respect the Corvette, but I guess that is, getting back there. I'm not
They're not that fast. Trust me.
Okay, because I mean, I'm honestly not really like the biggest car guy. People like now with this car, people think I'm a car guy and like try to talk to me about it. And I don't really know much, and I don't ever try to act like I know what I'm talking about when I don't. But yeah, it's definitely a different vibe driving a car like this than when I had, because my previous car was a 2014 Subaru Legacy, so there's nothing special about that. And now with this car, it turns heads and people want to talk to me about it. And I almost don't know what to say. I just wanted a stick shift that I could get to work with in the winter, but have fun otherwise. That was still practical because, it's all-wheel drive. It's got a lot of space. It's a sedan. It was just perfect for what I wanted.
Cargo room.
Hats off to all Subarus, dude. Those are like the funnest cars to drive, like even just base models. I've always had a sports car, a truck, and a daily driver.
Oh, okay.
So like back in the day, I think my favorite car I ever had was a '83 Mustang, and I hacked the heck out of this thing. Like just I would say like hacked it, like bad mechanics. So like if something went wrong, just delete it. Power steering, don't need it. Heater cord, don't need it.
Oh god.
Jesus.
Just if it broke, take it off.
Oh my god.
The very little bit of car guy Ara has is dying inside.
Yeah.
But I got a 13.9 quarter mile out of it.
Is that good?
Sacrifices.
I don't know.
That was pretty good.
Okay, I'll take your word on it. I've never tied myself going a quarter mile, so I don't know.
That was the only car I ever raced.
Oh, okay.
All the other ones were just like a slag to keep on the road.
Oh, and another thing. It sounds like it's just like kind of interesting that you're into cars and guns at the same time that I bought a new car, and I'm also got my pistol permit class scheduled for this month. So I'm super excited to finally own a pistol.
There you go. Protect yourself in this crazy world.
Fucking right.
You trying to carry, or are you trying to have a fun gun?
I'm trying to carry something for protection. So in my state, no matter what course you go, it's concealed carry. So I'll have a concealed carry license.
Say my conceal is a Ruger LC9S. It's a little 8-shot 9mm. There's nothing special about it. I like it. It works. It never jammed on me.
That's good.
But I also never had to shoot it. But it's a defense gun.
Right. Well, since I
do love pistols.
Gotcha. Well, while I haven't, bought a pistol yet, is there anything that you'd recommend?
I've always went Ruger.
Gotcha.
They have a great warranty, great return policy. Anything that goes wrong, like they will fix it for you.
Okay, I do like that.
I know a lot of other companies probably have like similar policies, but like my LC9S, like there was a recall on it. I sent it in, they sent it right back to me.
Perfect.
And I didn't even have the problem. They were just like, "Hey, this might be wrong."
Oh, yeah.
And sent it in, they fixed it.
There you go.
That's nice.
Well, yeah, it'll be nice to be one of the protected people.
I do like big pistols too. Those are I got a Beretta 92X.
Can that be, because I've heard of Beretta's being semi before. So is that a semi-automatic pistol? I mean, Wait, no. What I'm saying, all pistols are semi-automatic. What am I, stupid? I mean automatic.
No, it's semi-auto. I
Oh,
wanted it
okay.
mainly because it's the Resident Evil gun.
Oh, okay. But there are Berettas that can be automatic, right? Or did I play too many video games?
I mean, as long as no one's listening, any pistol can be automatic if you fuck with it.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's interesting. Oh, my
Inside
God.
scoop. You heard it here first.
You're not allowed to do that. Don't do that.
Any pistol
Don't
can
look
do
up
that?
any video.
What? You're blowing my mind right there. I didn't know that at all.
Look up some pistol tests. They'll do it just like as a malfunction. Like you get
it's a malfunction. I'm sorry, officer.
no, straight up. Like there are some pistols that will malfunction and just mag dump full auto on you.
That's a thing?
That is a thing.
Oh my God. I just can't imagine just trying to shoot one bullet and all of a sudden just like what? That's brutal.
Always hold on tight.
I think you could use that advice for a good amount of things.
Yep. Yep. Amen.
Well, I mean, it was great having you on here, Burning Man, especially an episode where we talk a lot about battle stats because, we talked a lot about crimes and stuff like that with you. And I think it's a nice little palate cleanser for the end of the episode after hearing so much about battle stats.
Absolutely.
I'm no slouch in battle stats either. Nobody try to fucking get my
Don't let it fool you.
Are you trying to tell us what it is, or after we end the recording here?
We'll do it after we end the recording.
Sounds good.
I don't war anything, so all my energy goes into stats.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
And with that, I will have Burning Man stats available for $10 million a pop. That's for the low price of $10 million a pop after the episode.
Hustling out here. Hustling.
Go ahead and get them. You can. I don't care.
Yeah, wait. It costs us $1 million for a battle. There's a big wrench in your plans here, Felon. You can just buy them for $1 million bucks.
Yeah, no. This is a Torn Underground exclusive.
Oh my God.
All right, it's $6 billion.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. That's solid.
You heard it here
there.
first.
I mean, most people can't screw with that, so there you go.
Nope, I certainly cannot.
$2 billion speed, $2 billion strength, one of the others.
There you go.
Solid. I like the build you're going for.
Yeah.
I like even numbers.
There you go.
There you
Hey,
go.
thank you so much for being our second person as this player spotlight, and it was great having you.
Yeah, thank you.
This was lovely.
All right, later.
All right, thank you.
Peace.
All right, and that is a wrap on Torn Underground episode 2. This was a lot of fun to record. How'd you feel about that?
I feel great. I think I came at it with some more confidence, and I think it will show.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, again, thank you guys, everybody, for listening. We hope you enjoyed the second episode as much as the first, and we hope you enjoy the ones to come even more. Please make sure that you are dropping some likes and everything on the forum post. Hop in the Discord, say hello, say what's up, and we love to interact with our community. The last thing we have here is, we are loving coming to you guys. We're going to be weekly now with these podcasts. It's a lot of fun, and we're really putting as much time and effort into it as we can. But it does cost a little bit of money for us to host these things and to have the software and the products to do this. So we have a PayPal account that we had set up. If you guys have the opportunity, have the ability to throw us something as a donation, that would be much appreciated. Everything will go back into the stream to help us, put out a better product. We are in no means making this a pay to listen podcast ever. But if you like what we do and you want to show us some love, it. We may get a Patreon set up in the future, if we have enough supporters that way too. But anything is greatly appreciated. And if you can't, you can't. No hard feelings. But we just show us some love if you are able to. But other than that, we are going to roll our last set of sponsors, and we will see you guys on episode 3.
And before we go, so there is a Patreon, Torn Underground. So if that's somewhere we'd like to help us out, that's typically good for like a monthly subscription kind of thing. I mean, it's weird calling it a subscription, but it's like a monthly support for the podcast. Otherwise, there's our PayPal, which is tornpodcast@gmail.com. So if you're looking to just send like one payment instead of like a recurring thing, directly to PayPal would be best, because otherwise, Patreon will take a cut of it, and there's no reason to give them a cut when we don't really need to. And yeah, so we're only taking Torn currency for the ads that you hear within the podcast. All of them are paid with Torn money. So the only real money we're gonna see out of this is from generous contributions from our listeners. And I know the first goal is to get the Felon that's the same mic I'm using, so we can match mics and try to up that production quality just a little bit further. So any amount that you could help us out with that would be perfect. And thank you again for listening to episode 2. And here are the last sponsors of the day. This is sponsored by Green. Green. And green. Vlad balls.